welcome to the Butter What Show. This is my co-host, Brian Moses from briancmoses.com, and I'm Pat Regan, and I'm here again, once again. What do you want to talk about first, Brian?
Let's talk about Jeremy's workbench lighting, because it's impressive.
Oh!
Can I interrupt?
Hang on, we gotta...
I finished.
Yes!
I finished.
What? How long did it take?
15 minutes and 35 seconds, 0.63.
Wow, that's awesome. Nice work.
That's fantastic. Chris started solving this Rubik's Cube during our last episode, and she finished it right as we were recording the introduction here. So she's done a good job. Congratulations. So, Brian, why don't you tell us about Jeremy's fantastic little Arduino LED, completely from scratch little project here?
He's got some motion sensors and an Arduino and some LED lighting, and based off of his location, it lights up the area of the bench that he's working at.
But oh yeah, there it goes. The light just turned on. As he walks past more of the bench, more of the lights will turn on. He's being sneaky here. He's sneaking up on it. And it's on some sort of timer. When after a while they give up and they turn off.
Yep.
And this is all self-contained. The Arduino does all of the work. There's no, home automation hub or anything. And he's got some manual control buttons plugged right into the Arduino there for brightness controls and things. It's pretty neat.
It is really neat.
With the little infrared sensors and stuff.
I like things like this because I always leave the light on in the garage. It doesn't matter if I turn the light on in the garage, I forget to turn it off when I go back inside. It would be nice to have something like this to know that my workbench lighting turned off when I wanted it or when I wasn't using it.
But we'll leave a link to the lovely Jeremy Cook's video in the description here. You should definitely check him out. You should check out his podcast, the Creativity Podcast, because I'm on there also. So
Despite the fact that you're on there.
Despite the fact. I just got my first shipment of Cloudfree version 2 smart plugs. Why are the Cloudfree plugs so exciting to me, Brian McMoses?
That's because they're cloud free. They're completely independent of any kind of internet connectivity to somebody else's software. Everything that you need to run the cloud free switch is already on the hardware that's inside that device.
It says it runs something called Tasmota. That seems to work very well with Home Assistant.
It works well with everything.
I used to use these.
Yep. These are your...
5 years ago, little Wi-Fi switches like this were like $40 each.
Yes.
And they weren't very good. I got a 3-pack of these goofy remote controlled switches for like $18 or something. It was a fraction of the price. And I built a little ESP32, or no, it was an ESP8266 with a little 433 megahertz transmitter to control these, and that worked great. But these are big and bulky and old, and they can't tell you whether they're on or off. You spam commands at them
and pray that one works.
And you hope. Yeah, you don't know if it works. But then you got me a handful of these Cloudfree switches, and on the Creativity Podcast, we had Kenny from Cloudfree on, and he's a good dude. He's done a good job. He has these flashed with Tasmota from the factory. And these were good. These were 10 amp. Both of these switches were easy to use. I used my phone to connect to their little Wi-Fi hotspot, pointed them at my real Wi-Fi, entered in my host name for Home Assistant, and then they just show up. Yep. The new form factor, you can actually fit 2 of these in the wall now, next to each other. These ones, you couldn't, even though these are a little bigger. The old ones were 10 amp. The new ones are 15 amp. And the new ones have power metering built in, kind of like a kilowatt.
I've enjoyed that. I have the Sonoff. I can't remember when they added power metering, but I have a whole handful of the Sonoff ones that have power metering.
You can see in this other window here, that's my Miss Sylvia is my Rancilio Sylvia espresso machine. And you can see her, she keeps popping up to 800 watts and then back down to nothing over and over again as she's heating up and cooling down. And I plugged in for fun my electric unicycle just to see how long it takes to charge and how much. It'll tell you how many kilowatt hours you use in a day. And I think this is really cool because I'm going to build some automation off of the power metering on the Sylvia because I can tell these some of these lines are really close together, that means I'm making coffee.
Okay.
So I can know. I almost always make 2 lattes in a day, and then I won't make another one till the next day. So I can count how many lattes I've made and wait a half hour and then just shut it off. With my old automation, with these old switches, which were flaky on the espresso machine, probably because of the wattage. When it detected my phone coming home, it would warm up the espresso machine
Okay.
during certain times of the day because I might want a latte when I get home. I'm pretty excited about these. What about you, Tubby?
I'm excited about them too. I've been tempted. I've been buying Z-Wave smart outlets and trying to, I guess, declutter my Wi-Fi at home. But I keep seeing cool new Wi-Fi smart gadgets that I keep buying. I'll probably buy some of these Cloudfree V2s.
I would enjoy moving everything over to Z-Wave, but I don't have any of the infrastructure. So, I don't have a Z-Wave USB dongle, and I don't have any devices yet. Yep, you're doing a good job then. It is good to get all that stuff off your Wi-Fi, and you don't have to worry about these being fragile, being broken into, at least not as much, right? We're both plumbing information from our desktop PCs, and I've got my laptop hooked up as well into Home Assistant.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this since I installed Home Assistant for a really strange reason. I know I've griped at you about this. My weird used 10 gigabit network card on my Windows computer. I don't know if the driver support is weird, but ever since I started using it, the screensaver doesn't turn on. Nothing. My computer's always just on.
Chugging
along. Which it should be, right? I mean, if you had a 10 gigabit interface in hardware, you didn't want it, hibernating when it wasn't in use. But it's a different problem for me in my silly computer. So I've wanted to find a way to use Home Assistant, or I guess any kind of automation, to detect when my computer is idle, and then just issue the command to lock the workstation or put it to sleep or to hibernate, while the computer's not being used. I found this Hast workstation service that does it in Windows and plumbs a bunch of sensors into Home Assistant, and then also allows you to create switches inside Home Assistant to execute commands on your machine, like to shut it down or to lock a workstation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, look at this. It sends your CPU load and your clock speed, memory usage, whether you're on the microphone or not.
Yep. Yeah, I want to for these live streams, I want to create an automation, some sort of sensor or a light maybe outside of the office to say, hey, we're on air. Yeah.
I used to have a logic built up to decide whether I was sleeping or not, or just away from the house. And one of the variables in all that math to figure out if I was asleep was, is my computer active? Pretty much, is my computer active? Is the Fire TV active? Is my phone at home? Then maybe Pat's asleep. And there's some new stuff to have in here to figure that out. But one of the automations that I've been lacking ever since I moved to the new house here, I have automation that I have 2 screens, and when I play a game on Steam, it'll dim the brightness on the left monitor that I'm not using. But I'd like it to turn the light out also. And now I'm halfway to being able to do that. I just need to pipe in the Steam information.
Yeah, I want to do, now that I'm working remotely full time, I want to do the same thing, but to detect, when I'm in meetings, to turn particular lights off in my office so that I don't look, I guess, as terrible, in my Zoom calls or whatever.
But this has gotten me to start finally messing around. I don't have any automation yet in Home Assistant. I'm just capturing data mostly. And I've got a remote control. Like I could turn my podcasting lighting set up on and off with a button. But that's just a remote control. That's not auto. But I've got my desktop idle settings here, and I started messing with that. It knows when my desktop's idle, and I built in Node-RED another sensor that, and it doesn't seem to be working right. I don't know. That can't be right.
I know this feeling.
Yep. But I haven't even looked at that. I just put some stuff together in Node-RED just to see that it was working and populating a switch. But it knows when I've been idle for 5 more minutes than it thinks I've been idle for. It's a totally useless sensor. But I want to build some more sensors based on some of this other information. Like I want a sensor that says, when's the last time I pulled a shot of espresso? And that's a thing that I can figure out from another sensor. So you take one sensor, do a little bit of logic, and then spit out another sensor.
Yep.
I have a few places where I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've got a lot of data getting plumbed into Home Assistant, but not a whole lot of automation. You know, like I turn on and off my lights in my office at set times of the day, or when I leave the house. You know, the Home Assistant mobile app tells Home Assistant when I'm out of the house, you know, using GPS data.
I don't get to do any of the automation based on times because I don't have a schedule. You never know when I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I need to plumb in some sort of, like you can see in my window here, there's a Pat's phone sleep confidence. This graph is when Android thinks I'm awake or asleep. And that's not enough information to prove definitively whether I'm
Have you tried
awake.
Have you tried charting that? You know, just for every hour of the day, is Pat asleep? Put what, yes or no, and then overlay the two graphs to see how good Android.
No, I have, but you can tell there's too many of these dips where I should be. Now, Android is this is part of Android Fit, I think.
Okay.
And it's probably for, how well I'm sleeping, right?
Yeah.
And, these little dips here where it thinks I might be awake are probably, when I woke up to get a drink or use the bathroom or something. I mean, who knows why, right?
Sleepwalking.
The cat woke me up, he was hungry. We don't know. But I don't want to, that doesn't count. I'm not awake.
Yeah.
That's for home automation purposes, that's not awake. But I figure I could take this, if it's thought I've been asleep, greater than 75% for so long, and then if I haven't used any devices in the house in 8 hours, I'm probably asleep.
Yeah.
I figure it's okay. You don't have to be right. You just have to err in the correct direction. Like, I don't ever want my espresso machine to warm up 2 hours after I wake up. I'd rather it warm up 2 hours before I wake up, so it's ready when I get there. Just the errors have to be in the right direction.
Yeah, it almost depends, and it'll have to depend on the kind of automation, right? Because, if you're watching a movie, you want it to assume that you're awake. If you want it to err on the side of, hey, I'm awake, not I'm asleep, so go ahead and turn off the TV or do whatever, home automation you might have where you're watching the movie.
Yep, the brains for all your scenes have to know when they make sense.
Yeah, we do. Did we do a good job? Let us know in the comments below. Please also click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and mash the notification bell so you don't miss on upcoming episodes and our monthly live streams on the first Tuesday of every month.
If you enjoy what Brian and I are up to, there's links in the description below to our pages on patreon.com. And over on Patreon, you could leave us $1 or $2 just to let us know that you appreciate what we're doing. And even the smallest donations, I get excited. It makes me feel like you guys actually care and somebody's interested in watching what we're doing. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, Pat, you hit the nail right on the head. I totally appreciate all of the patrons that we have supporting us. And we also appreciate that you've tuned into this video and hope to see you in our next live stream.